Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about something that we know is super controversial and we're expecting to get a lot of comments. We invite your comments on this, but please, we're asking you to keep it respectful as we do with any video. Yep, but especially this one because I think it's going to be heated. We're going to be talking about DAS. We're going to be talking about the changes, why they've gotten to this point where they've needed to make changes at Disney with the DAS, our thoughts on it, and what we think that they could be doing differently with the changes. So just before we begin, first of all, if you're not subscribed, please make sure that you subscribe, that you hit that notification bell, and that you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. So now let's get into DAS and the history, what came before.
You gotta get the housekeeping out of the way,
Yeah,
right?
gotta get that out of the way. So, previous to DAS, Disney had the guest assistance card. I do have experience with that card. I don't use DAS, neither one of us use DAS, but I did use the guest assistance card. And for both that and DAS, if you had just strictly a mobility concern,
Like me.
like Ben, yeah, where it's just the wheelchair kind of, is the main thing where he can't get into some of the queues, whatever. You don't necessarily automatically qualify for DAS. They just tell you, or the guest assistance card, they'll tell you, go to the attraction, use the alternate entrance if it's not a wheelchair accessible ride. And that kind of like solves the issue. Now, if you have a physical disability like I do that has some other components to it besides the mobility challenges, then they kind of talk to you about what that is, and they may or may not approve you based on what the concern is, and that's how it previously worked. And so my experience with the guest assistance card was hit and miss. The only reason that I ever even knew about it was going to Disneyland with my parents. Cast members were the ones that actually told me that I needed to apply for it. Told me and my parents because they saw me struggling, because it was way before I even used a scooter. I was walking around with my disability, and so it was cast members that actually recommended it, told me to go to City Hall. So we went, and the thing is that just like there's inconsistency now, there's always been inconsistency, with these passes, because, I was told to apply by Disney, and then I got to City Hall, and then they were denying me, and they basically told me to rent a wheelchair, and that was going to solve my whole issue. Talked to a manager, I did end up getting approved based on other things, because, see, the thing is that I wasn't using a wheelchair or scooter at that time because my doctors did not recommend that for me. They wanted me to be as mobile as I could for as long as possible. So my parents really didn't want me in a wheelchair losing that mobility. They wanted me to be walking around as much as possible. So we had to really fight with Disney and say, hey, what you're suggesting is counter to what the medical professionals are saying. So I did end up getting the guest assistance card, and it was kind of hit and miss after that. I would try a few times here and there to get it, and it really, just like it's always been with any of their accommodation services, it's been dependent upon the cast member that you talk to, whether they feel like you qualify or not. So basically, Disney has had the guest assistance card, or had the guest assistance card up until 2013. With the guest assistance card, it was a physical card that allowed up to 6 guests to accompany you onto an attraction if you had a disability. And it had a lot of problems because it was this physical card that you could give to anybody to use. It wasn't it had your name on it, but they weren't checking ID. So it was ripe for abuse, really. It was. And then the fact that they... What?
I was just going to say, I bet there was even more abuse then than there is now.
I believe it, and that's why they went to DAS. That's what I was going to say. So the other thing besides it being this physical card that you could give it to anybody was that it really did function almost like a front of the line pass. I mean, unlike how DAS kind of functions now where you have return times, you would just show it to whoever, at the alternate entrance of the ride, and you would wait there. And so it was cutting down wait times. It was. So I will admit it wasn't a perfect system, and I could see why able-bodied guests could see a lot of abuse with that and unfairness. And so in 2013, there were changes. That's when they revamped the system. They moved to DAS, and that had its own issues, mainly with the autism and similar disorder community that filed a lawsuit. Actually, there's a couple of lawsuits that were going on about that. One main one I know of, saying that you're kind of penalizing the autism community and people with developmental disabilities that don't understand wait times. They don't understand
Concept of time.
like, somebody that doesn't have that challenge, and it's going to cause, meltdowns, so to speak, and adverse consequences to this community. And unfortunately, they did not win. Disney won the lawsuit, but there were some changes along the way to DAS. So in the beginning with DAS, and we did a video on DAS and how it worked a few years ago, where you had to get return times at Disneyland. It was at umbrellas. You had to go find these umbrellas, and they weren't exactly easy.
No.
They weren't easy to find.
Especially in Tomorrowland.
Yeah, they were like way out of the way. You had to find these umbrellas, get a return time, wait for the return time,
Yeah.
go to the ride after you've waited the return time, allotted time, which should have been the posted time for the ride. Then you had to wait again, because you would go into the queue. It wasn't like an automatic entry onto the ride. You had to wait again, basically a short amount of time. But so it was a lot of waiting. It was a lot of waiting.
And even with the return time that I would get, if you remember, we did that on Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
We had a 45-minute wait for Haunted Mansion. Our time came. We went and got in line, and we still waited another 45 minutes to get onto the ride.
Yeah, so the way that it works with Ben and with me, with my scooter and the wheelchair, the lines that are not wheelchair accessible, that you can't just get into the line, they do give us a return time. That is the posted time, and then we go up an alternate entrance, like on Haunted Mansion. It's like the exit.
Yeah,
we go up the exit.
It's like 98% of Disneyland itself, but over at California Adventure, wait in line.
Yeah. So just like with the DAS, it's a lot of waiting for us. It's neither one of those systems is an automatic front of the line pass. If anything, you're waiting longer than able-bodied people that can just wait wait one time and get on the ride.
Yeah, see, and that's also a misnomer for a lot of people. DAS isn't even a front of the line.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, with either one of those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're waiting.
You're waiting
like twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Disney won their lawsuits, but they did tweak DAS a little bit to where they put the system onto either the Disneyland app or the Walt Disney World app, where you could at least select your wait times on the app for DAS. And so you wouldn't have to go either to the attractions or to the umbrellas that were super hard to find.
Right.
So that made it a little bit easier. But okay, again, I think it was probably less abuse, but there's still abuse with DAS, because you see streamers online saying that they're using it. So that doesn't look good. And I'm going to always say this. I'm going to say you can't tell what somebody's disability is just by looking at them. So
no.
Unless a streamer or somebody that you see in the park is saying that they're abusing DAS and that they lied and they're laughing about it, you don't know. I want everybody to really think about what does disability look like? There is no just one image of a disabled person that fits everyone. It can be physical, it can be developmental, it can be emotional.
You can't put disability in a box.
No.
Period.
So even if somebody's saying that they're using it and they don't look disabled to you, that doesn't mean that they're not.
Right.
And I don't think that anybody has any reason to, or any room to judge. I'm just going to let all you know that disability is the largest minority that anybody can become a part of at any time. So any of you watching can become disabled and need DAS at any time.
Come join us. We accept all.
Yes. All are welcome in the disabled community. So you too may need to use accommodations at Disneyland at some point, and this may affect you. So because there's still been misuse of DAS, and because, and this is the other thing, even beyond the abuse that's going on with DAS, the disability population is booming. And so there's just a lot of people using it, whether they are abusing it or not, because disability population is booming. So there's a lot of people that are using DAS. And so, yeah, it's creating a problem in the fast pass, or not, the lightning lane return lines, because they merge with the DAS lines, and so it creates a bottleneck, and so Disney's trying to fix it.
Merges with the regular line.
Yeah. Well, DAS merges with the lightning lane.
Well, yeah, they're mixed in now.
And so Disney's trying to fix it. Disney recently announced that they were going to overhaul the DAS system and make some changes, and those changes have already happened at Disney World. And basically, one of the changes is that they have cut down on the number of people you can have in a DAS party, from 6 to 4. And I believe that they have increased the number of days before your trip that you can apply for DAS to 120 days?
I think it's 120.
Yeah. So that's good. But then again, if you're getting,
then
I guess if you're going to apply and you get denied, then 120 days out instead of like 60 or 90 or whatever it was.
60.
So more in advance. Maybe you can cancel your plans sooner.
Yeah. Well,
so that's something.
People are canceling all.
This is the thing. They're saying that DAS was only intended for people with autism and similar disabilities, and so that they're trying to get back to that.
Yeah.
But we're going to point out to you how that is inaccurate, just based on their own documentation, on their own history. So back to that lawsuit that we talked about with the whole DAS introduction. Court documentation that was admitted during that case showed that when Disney created DAS, the Services to People with Disabilities Department at Disney proposed two separate disability passes. One for people with autism and similar, and then the second one for other kinds of disabilities. And so they would have different levels of accommodation. And their industrial engineering, I believe it was, department proposed DAS, basically, like where it's all together, all the disabilities are going to be lumped under one pass, no separate passes. And that is what they went with. And so, even in their own documentation, it shows that it was intended for everyone with a disability, not just people with autism. And then the other thing, too, is that with the guest assistance card and with DAS, they've never asked a diagnosis. They've never said before that it was only for people with autism. They've never asked if you have autism. They still don't ask if you have autism in the current screening at Disney World. People with autism are being denied at Disney World. People with other disabilities and challenges besides autism are being approved. So if it's really just for people with autism and similar, there's a big inconsistency there. My belief is that's not the case. That's not true.
See, I didn't know about the two different departments fighting about it until you told me about it.
Yeah, I found that in some of the court documentation about the lawsuit that happened in 2013. Yeah, and I'm going to try and post that down below in the comments or in the description section, so that you can see that, if I can find that where I got that and post that. But the lawsuit's out there, like the documentation from the lawsuit is out there, and so it kind of talks about how they came up with DAS, and so you can see it. So basically, yeah, there's a lot of problems, both with the cutting down from 6 to 4 guests, and then with the whole screening process, and then in addition to only allowing you to have 4 guests in your DAS party, it's limited to just your immediate family. So say grandma wants to be in your DAS, and they're literally denying grandparents because they're not part of the disabled person's immediate family. They will suggest that the grandparent gets Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. So friends, like support people that are not your immediate family, are not qualifying to be part of your DAS party. And so basically, in 4 people, that is it. The other people in your party, they're saying you have to get Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. And so with the screening process itself that's already rolling out at Disney World, basically it seems like it's a 2-tiered screening process where they start with a Disney cast member on the phone. You talk to them. They're asking about why you can't wait in line. Basically, they're not asking you your diagnosis. They don't want to hear it. They want to know why you can't stand in line. And also, if it's a child that's applying, they have to have the child on the call to explain why they can't wait in line. So they're asking children that may not fully understand their disability to explain it to them. So if the cast member that's listening to your story has some issue with it, is having a hard time making the determination, then they pass it on to, or they add the healthcare professional to the call, and that person gets to make the final decision. And basically, the thing is that it's really unclear who these healthcare professionals are, what their qualifications are. People have asked, and they won't
say,
divulge that. The only thing that I know from the research is that Disney was hiring people with experience in autism. So you have people with experience in autism on their calls, which is great for people with autism, but they're making judgments on other disabilities as well.
And they're laughing at people.
That was where I was going to get to next. I mean, there's been a lot of issues just with the rollout of the system. And basically, we have a infographic that I'm going to put up here that you can get to on Instagram. And it's going to show the issues with the rollout. Let me pull it up here. And it's going to show, it's going to kind of encapsulate for you the issues with the rollout and with the suggestions that they're making themselves. So basically, with the rollout, they've had issues with cast members saying things such as, maybe Disney isn't for you, to people that don't qualify and that are upset. They have had the medical professional laugh at the disabled people. It was a specific case where they laughed at a child. And so these calls are not always the most professional. And basically, in the case of the child that was laughed at by the healthcare professional, the cast member on the line actually told the parent to report it. Another issue with the rollout process in your phone call is that the cast member on the line is making suggestions that are not being honored when people get to the park. One of the things that they are telling people to do that are being denied for DAS is to request return times at the individual attractions. Basically, you have to, if you're denied for DAS on the phone, they're telling you to plead your case with each individual ride operator, tell them why you need a return time, and then hope that they will give that to you. And basically, we heard it just recently from a friend of ours that was there.
Yep.
The cast member that she spoke to at the attraction at Disney World, Magic Kingdom, said, "That's a rumor. We don't do that. We don't give return times like that. That's not something that we're doing." So basically, anybody that's saying that on the phone is not aware of what's actually being done in the park.
One hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing.
Yep. Another thing that they're suggesting is that you can request a return to queue, meaning that if you end up having a medical emergency in the queue when you're denied for DAS, that you can find a cast member. If you can make your way out of the line in time, you need to find the cast member that's attending that queue, tell them why you need to leave the line, and then ask them if you can get returned to the queue whenever your medical emergency is done. There's a couple of issues with that. One of them is the fact that you have to fight your way out of a queue that's, packed.
Yeah.
Packed, while you're having a medical emergency. The other one is that you have to stop while you're having this medical emergency to talk to a cast member and tell them what's going on. And then you have to hope that the cast member allows you to do the return to queue and that they're there when you get back. Because if they're not there when you get back,
it's going to be
taking their break. It's going to be
different cast member.
Different cast member if they're taking their break. They may or may not approve you to get back in. I know I saw a story of one person that was having a medical emergency, was going to pass out, had to leave the line urgently, did not have time to stop and talk to the cast member. And when she came back to the queue with her husband, because her husband needed to go with her because she was going to pass out, the cast member said, well, you should have talked to us before you even entered the queue and told us that was, something that might happen. And then because you didn't talk to us before you entered the queue, no, you're going to have to get back at the back of the line. Yeah. So that's nice.
Yeah. Then there's the people who aren't going to move for...
Right.
Yeah.
So then
and threaten the threatening.
Yes. So even if the cast members do approve you to return to line, so say you're meeting your family, say you have a group of family members in line, and the cast members allowing the disabled guest to wait outside the line or return to the line. Able-bodied people have been posting on Facebook, Instagram, Facebook groups that they will not allow people to cut in front of them to get to their party, that they will block them, that they will get in their face, that they're not going to allow it. That's posts that I've seen.
Yeah.
People are afraid. Disabled people are afraid to take advantage of this option that Disney is offering us, because they don't want violence. They don't want to get hurt. They don't want to have to fight their way out of line, and then they don't want to have to get in an argument to try and get back to their family. We shouldn't be afraid to go to the park. We shouldn't be afraid for our safety, but we are. A lot of people are, and I've seen it. And with the threatening that I've seen, the posts that I've seen, people saying that I will physically block anybody that tries to get back, tries to cut in front of me to get to their party. It's gross. It's gross.
I can't say what I really want to say.
Yeah. Here's another outrageous one, is that if you have a child, if you're a person that's there with your child, if you're just either there with your children or a child, if you're the disabled person, a disabled adult, they have suggested that your child wait in queue for you. Or they have suggested that if your child is the one that has the disability, that your child, if you're only there with one adult, they have said that the adult can wait in line, and then the child can be the one that waits outside the queue and meets the parent later. Now, people have reported this to Disney, and Disney is saying, now that if somebody on the phone with, during this process is recommending that a person under the age of 12 be left alone, that it needs to get reported to Disney. So if you experience that, it needs to get reported, because that is against Disney policy, but it is being recommended as one of the options, the alternatives to DAS. I think that I've covered a lot of the issues with the main suggestions, but then if all of these other things fail, if you tell them that I can't do any of these other things, the kicker is that they will resort to saying, well, then get Genie Plus and Lightning Lane.
Yeah, spend the money.
And me and my cynical brain, that's where I think that a lot of this is coming from, because basically DAS is a free, can be used similarly to a Genie Plus system. They're real similar, and I just think that is where some of this is coming from with Disney.
Absolutely.
With all of that, and like I said, I am going to post a link to
lots of notes.
Yeah, DAS Denied on Instagram is where I'm getting my infographic. I'm going to show the infographic here, and we're going to post in the comments So you can actually see it and go to her page and see the infographic further. So I think, we've covered a lot of the main issues that are going on right now, why a lot of disabled people are getting really stressed out about this. So what's happening, the response is that people have canceled their vacations. I wouldn't want to put, we live close to Disneyland, which is fortunate for us. So that's why I don't worry too much about not having DAS, because I can just come home if I'm having a real issue, or I can just not go and then go a different day. We're Magic Key holders. But if you're planning a vacation around this, a family vacation, you don't want to take your chances not knowing what you're going to get when you get to the park, with people promising you one thing on your interview and then it not being available to you when you get to the park. People are canceling their vacations. I know what you're going to say.
Canceling their vacations.
Yep.
Canceling their annual passes.
They're trying to, at least.
Canceling DVC contracts.
That's where I was going to go. Yep.
Canceling their Disney visas.
Yep.
They're doing exactly what they should. Hit Disney where it's going to hurt them the most.
I would not recommend, though, trying to cancel your Magic Key.
No.
Or your annual pass, because that's just going to end up hurting your credit.
Your contract, your DVC contract, fine.
Yeah, you can get out of that, but
yeah.
Trying to deny charges on your annual pass or your Magic Key isn't going to work. It's going to hurt your credit. DAS was not in your contract that you signed, so that's not going to do any good. If anything, wait your contract out and don't renew if that's what you feel like you need to do. But I would not recommend denying the charge for that. But that is what's happening. So, yeah. It's
going to be a long fight. Mm-hmm. It's not nowhere near over. This is just the beginning.
Yep. Now, there are some sympathetic cast members, especially, I think, not necessarily the ones on the phone, but the ones at the park.
There's some great cast members.
Are sympathetic, and they're saying Disney is listening. Disney is hearing what's going on already, even though it hasn't even rolled out at Disneyland yet. So make your voices heard. Email Disney. We're gonna put some email addresses in the comments, or not in the comments, in the description. The description. We'll put some places that you can email to let your voice be heard on this. Yeah. So, what are some suggestions that we have that can fix this?
Well, you just said first one, email.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean alternatives to fix it. What can Disney do instead? What should they be doing instead, or what do we think?
Oh, Japan.
Yes.
Tokyo.
Right. So at Tokyo Disney, and yes, before you come at us in the comments, I know that they're not owned by Disney, but Disney can take a hint from what they're doing. Disney, at Tokyo Disney, at least from what I've seen, and I'm gonna kind of post here a little bit, a snippet of what it says in the language. So you sign up for their services, show them whatever you need to show them to get approved, and when you go to the attraction, you are given a time. It looks like they scan your ticket and give you the DAS return time. And there at the park, it sounds like they have a designated waiting place where the disabled person and their party waits for their return time. I don't know how that would work here, because we don't have, especially, I don't know. There's
no place to wait.
Yeah, I don't think that there's places like that, but I think because everything's so electronic, you're scanning everything all the time anyway, and there's supposed to be cast members at each attraction. I mean, they tell you that if you have to leave the line, you're supposed to be able to talk to these people. I think that everyone should have to scan in. Everyone, ticket holder, pass holder, Magic Key holder, DAS person, should have to scan in with a cast member, and then the cast member can see whether you have a DAS return time on your ticket already. And if you have a DAS return time, then you can't get in a DAS line, you can't get a DAS or a fast pass line, you can't get in a general standby line. No. You have to wait until your DAS return time, until you've used that, so that you're not able to skip to different rides. If you see a short standby line, you can't do that while you're waiting for DAS, because then you're not like double dipping and like getting all these like rides in all day, like these supposed abusers are claiming that they're doing on YouTube. You know.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of the names.
Yeah.
You know, if you guys know.
Well, we
PM
supposedly
us.
know one that got banned. So
Yeah.
this is the thing. Disney is watching social media, and I think that it's on Disney to, because they know, you know, they track people on social media, and if people are just
Yes, they do.
abusing DAS on social media, I think it needs to get reported, and Disney needs to crack down on tracking, you know, social media accounts. To crack down on this and make an example out of
These
the
people,
influencers, especially that are doing it and flaunting it on YouTube. And I think that people
the abusers
that watch them should report it,
Yep.
because that is cheating people that should be that are standing by waiting while these other people are supposedly hopping from ride to ride using DAS and over here and then getting a standby line over there. Like I said, I think that one solution would be you can't get in a standby line or a fast pass line if you have a DAS that you're waiting on. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that it might have to be a tiered system, and that would work for a lot of people with disabilities, but that wouldn't work for people with like autism or developmental disabilities that again cannot comprehend time. I think that they need to do like the two-tiered system that the Services to People with Disabilities Department at Disney was first proposing. I am not opposed. I know Ben has strong feelings about this, but I am not opposed to Disney using the IBCCES company that Universal and Six Flags use to do their screening process, and because basically it's not as subjective as what they're doing right now at Disney. You have to submit some form of form of documentation that says that you have some disability.
Yeah, I have a HIPAA problem with that.
Well, that's why they use the IBC. See, the HIPAA violation might be, I mean, that's why Disney doesn't collect the information themselves, because they don't think that they have a secure HIPAA compliance way to store that information.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the IBCCES is HIPAA compliant.
Okay.
You know, there's a lawsuit going on with them, but I think if it pans out, this is a legitimate company. I think if it pans out that might be a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Go through them, submit some sort of documentation. Don't just let it be whatever, you know, pleading your case to whoever's on the phone, like, and like whether you are able to articulate your disability well enough to somebody. No. Submit some sort of documentation to this third party, you know, have this two-tiered system. You know, you could even say, you know, these people on the lower tier that are not the, you know, autism and whatever, you know, block them out where they can't go on anything while they're waiting. You could say limit them to a certain number of rides per day using DAS, and then after that you're on your own. Because in fairness to people that are in standby lines, they only get on a certain number of rides per day, waiting in line all day. And if it's truly, you know, it should be, you know, somewhat fair, equitable to people that are standing in all these lines. And I think that the main thing that a lot of disabled people are concerned about is their safety. Their safety, their privacy, their dignity, which is also being stripped away by all these changes. Of being able to wait in the shade so you don't pass out, being able to wait in your restroom if you have bowel issues. And I myself don't care if I get to crush rides all day. Limit the number of rides that I can go on to a handful, and then I can wait in some lines if there's some short times that I think I can handle. But yeah, as long as I'm safe and my needs are being met, and I'm not being embarrassed, I'm not being put in jeopardy because of waiting in these lines I can't get out of. Imagine trying to get out of these lines. They're suggesting that you get out of these lines if you need to and you're having a medical emergency. What if you're using a scooter like me, or a wheelchair like Ben, and you're in a line like Rise of the Resistance?
Can't turn around.
We were stopped in there because the line was broken down, And it was getting very claustrophobic, and I realized that if I was having some sort of medical emergency, there would be no way for me to get out of that line in certain parts, because especially like where it wasn't near an exit, so you're putting people in jeopardy, I think. And it's already starting to happen at Disney World. Yeah.
What's it going to take someone to really have a severe medical emergency for them to actually see that this isn't going to work?
I think so, unfortunately. And just the other thing is that, just so you're aware, if you do go through the DAS process, just applying for it and talking to somebody, you are waiving your right to be a part of any kind of class action lawsuit. Yep. Not necessarily an individual lawsuit, but a class action lawsuit for sure. You are waiving that right. Just so you know that up front before you apply.
It says it on the website.
Changes your opinion about whether you're going to apply for this. Yeah. So we get it that there are people that are abusing it, and that there are aspects of it that make it seem unfair to people that are paying for things like Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. But disability accommodations are not something that people with disabilities should have to pay for.
No.
It evens the playing field to make things accessible and safe. So, I mean, those are the suggestions that I have to kind of even it out. Things that might be workable rather than what they're doing now, which is totally left field and seems like it's unworkable so far. I don't know. What do you think? I know you don't like using the idea of using that third-party website, but it might be the only way to really crack down on who's using it on using DAS, because then you're submitting some sort of documentation.
Yeah, it may.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. A prescription or a little letter from your doctor.
Letter from your doctor. They take
One
things
paragraph.
like they take things like your IEP if you're a kid. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys out there have any suggestions on how they can fix it, anything better than what they're doing now, suggestions on how you think that DAS can be changed and improved, please leave a comment. Again, be respectful. We're going to delete, or we're going to handle.
We don't tolerate
any of the disrespectful comments. Yeah.
Or disrespect.
Yeah. And with that, I think that that kind of covers the broad issue of what's going on. Again, these changes are already happening at Disney World, but they are coming soon, June 18th, to Disneyland. So we wanted to get this information out there and kind of share our thoughts, since we are Disneyland local. This is coming soon too, and it's going to affect a lot of people that we know. It's affecting people we know on the East Coast. It's going to affect a lot of people here at Disneyland that we know.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot.
And again, we don't use it, but we are disability advocates, and so we are fighting for the people that need it. I would love to be able to have it for the issues that I do have, but unfortunately, I just got tired of the back and forth with it. So, yeah.
Tired of fighting for basic needs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that'll do it, you guys. Heavy topic, but important one. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Again, like we said in the beginning, subscribe if you're not, and turn on the notification bell. And remember,
2 things. Be kind. And adventure is out there.